Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. My website is teamchicago.tv. It hasn't been updated in a while. My email is teamdan45@gmail.com. On YouTube, you can see many clips, motorcycle racing, political clips. I'm lucky YouTube exists. I'm happy that they still allow me to put stuff up there. So anyhow, we're going to talk today about a show, well, not a show, we're going to talk about a clip. When I was at the Muscle Car and Corvette show in Chicago, I met Steve Walker. In my conversation with Steve Walker, we were talking about Avantis. Avantis were Studebakers, set land speed record back in 1963, back when I was in 8th grade. And I remember the land speed record stuff. My dad had a Studebaker. But he said he had a friend that had one of them land speed record cars. And he lived right by St. Louis. So when I was down in St. Louis for the Racers Party, the Neil King thing over at Donaldson Cycle, I crossed the river and met up with Randy Rapp. He has got one of 9, there was only 9 built, R3 Avantis. It's a 1964. It's got the 304 engine, punched out engine. It's got the supercharging. And this car was probably capable easily of doing 150 miles an hour. The land speed record ended up being 170 miles an hour. So he's got one of them hot rod Avantis. They only made 9 of them at the factory. He's got one. And the editor of the Avanti Magazine is going to tell us all about this great car.
Randy's got a great collection of cars, including a couple of these Studebaker GT Hawks, supercharged cars. As you can see, he loves to restore cars. He does the majority of the work himself. He knows what to farm out and have other people do properly. I believe the Studebaker GT Hawk is a 1962 or 1963. You could see the Paxton supercharger. Studebaker was a pioneer of building high-performance cars from the factory. They offered a supercharging. They also offered disc brakes on their cars. This is 1962 and 1963. They had superchargers on their Golden Hawks going back to 1957. As you can see, Randy has got 2 of these GT Hawks. This one's up on the lift, being restored. He does some excellent work, and we will see that when we look at the R3 Avanti. Randy is a successful farmer from central Illinois, and his passion is restoring beautiful cars. As we see this R3 Avanti, Louis Schucart, who's the editor of the Avanti Magazine, is going to tell us about this car. And we're also going to look at a film clip produced for Studebaker about the land speed records set by the Avantis back in 1962-63.
Schucart, editor of Avanti Magazine of the Avanti Owners Association International. We publish a quarterly magazine, quarterly full-color magazine. The car I'm standing next to is a 1964 Studebaker Avanti. It's the first of 9 production R3 engine packages. And the R3 engine package had a Paxton supercharged engine, this one is 4-speed transmission. They also came automatic. There were 5 of the 9 R3s. There were 5 4-speeds, T10, Borg-Warner T10 4-speeds, and 4 automatics. And they all had factory disc brakes. The first American production car with disc brakes. This has the Halbrand wheels on it, which was an option. They all had bucket seats. They were 4-passenger cars inside. Because it's supercharged, back then you couldn't get air conditioning on it. So you had to, if you got the supercharger, you couldn't get air conditioning. Otherwise, you could. A lot of people today put the smaller Sandin air conditionings on them, which makes them nice to drive. This car, you could also get tilt steering wheel on them too. This one doesn't have it, but some do. There was an option, as were the Halbrand real magnesium wheels. The 64s had, in the interior, they had thick back bucket seats, color keyed interior. So this is a turquoise interior and a turquoise dash, wood grain surrounds in the console and instruments and panels. The Raymond Loewy, who was the head designer of the Avanti, they designed the car with aircraft style levers on the console to control the heat and ventilation. Had the heater and light switches overhead like an airplane cockpit. Had the asymmetric hood bulge in the car, which follows from the front of the car up to the driver and the instrument pod, so it all comes together. An open door here. Some of the cars had colored carpet. This one has black carpet. The 64s were a lot more refined than 63s. They had the Studebaker emblems in the door. 63s don't. Chrome pockets on the armrest. All the Avantis and also the Larks glove compartment had a what they called a vanity for ladies. Open it up. You got your cup holders, light inside, and there's a vanity. Yeah. And they used the T10 4-speeds. Had an Anson shifter, same as Corvettes used in 63 and 64, and other cars, other Chevrolets used an Anson shifter. Radio this is an AM radio, but you could get AM and FM. Front and rear speakers. This has a rear speaker. 8,000 RPM tach, 160 mile an hour speedometer. This shows 46,688 miles, and probably is original.
Because they raced it usually.
The overhead switches are lights, headlight and parking light, instrument lights, and then heater. And similar to an aircraft design. With the cockpit, the asymmetric hood bulge comes all the way back from the front into the instrument panel. And the console has the levers down in the console for the heater and vent, similar to aircraft of the day. There's the vents, right and left vents, heater, defroster, and temperature. And very much an aircraft design.
And they did have cooling vents down there in the console for the heat. Remember the cooling tubes?
Right. So it takes in air from the cowl, and then brings the air in through the console and out the bottom of the car, which helps get rid of some of the engine and transmission heat.
This is the Great Salt Flats at Bonneville, Utah. A landscape weird as the mountains of the moon. An eerie valley where men and machines pursue the elusive goal of world speed records. Humming over this 12 miles of salt speedway, a daring driver sits in the bucket seat of a Bonneville record breaker. The star of this big effort to clean the slate of stock car speed records is Studebaker's sleek new Avanti from the design studio of Raymond Loewy, built by the craftsmen at Studebaker, skilled vehicle engineers for 111 years. These record assaults are the final tests of the car's safety features. They are far more rigorous than anything possible at factory proving grounds. Here at Bonneville, you never run out of road. In brief bursts at full throttle, this production car will hurtle down the salt at more than 172 miles an hour. These speeds subject engine, driveline, and chassis parts to forces far beyond their normal design functions. 3 cars were hauled across 2 states for these tests. One is a practice car, one is in reserve, and the third is the finely tuned but factory stock machine. Tons of tires, tools, and equipment reflect the extreme care and planning which go into this effort. The man in command of this most exhaustive speed test in passenger car history is Andy Granatelli, veteran of nearly a score of years of racing. His feats range from the roaring oval at Indianapolis to this strangest of all racing sites at Bonneville. Andy, at 38, has made precision his watchword in a career that has brought him to the status of corporation executive. Fuel, strictly pump variety, the proper tires, and everlasting checking and rechecking of every item on the car contribute to safety, which is the first consideration of such projects. Other men are busy with preparations of an official nature on this fateful day. The crack timing crew of the U.S. Auto Club are making last checks on their electronic timers as Andy signals he's ready to start writing new pages in the record books. There's the green flag. That's green for go, and the muted scream of the little 299 cubic inch engine bounces back from the sheer rock walls of the surrounding mountains. Timers call the speeds over 2-way radios, and the car is rolling well past the 150 mile per hour mark. Andy pulls out every stop. This car, smaller than record holders it will outrun, is clicking through the timing traps at sensational speeds, which are checked and rechecked by this crew, which has backstopped Granatelli over every foot he drives out on that blazing white salt speedway. The records tumble one by one as Andy pours on the coal. He hits the big one, 168.24 miles per hour over the measured kilometer from a flying start. This is almost 15 miles an hour faster than the old record set here just a few days ago by the former American stock car record holder. The Avanti is actually running in Class C because of engine size. But so fast is Granatelli's pace that he bags the unlimited stock car records as well. The mile flies by at 168.15 miles an hour, and the big ones that the crew has eagerly awaited are in the bag. The 10-mile records, both flying and standing, fall to Andy and his crewmen. And so the job is done. After 12 long hours of driving, checking, and driving again, day and night, at dusk and at dawn, Avanti now holds 29 new records, 9 of them national class records, 10 of them American stock unlimited class records, and 10 of them American Class C stock car records. There is no hilarious celebration as the salt-crusted car pulls into the pits. For this task of vehicle testing is workaday stuff for Andy and his pit crew. The accomplishment is great, and Andy Granatelli, the man behind the wheel of the nation's fastest production car, is quietly happy today on the vast salt flat of Bonneville, Utah.
Car, when Studebaker and Andy Granatelli got together, they took several Avantis to Bonneville Salt Flats in '62 and set several land speed records. They set like 29 production car land speed records, and the fastest was an R5, which is dual supercharged, and that went like 100 don't hold me to it. I think it was around 196 miles per hour, 196, 197 miles per hour. Then for the production R3 was 171 miles per hour. And this was for mostly the Avanti. They had several Avantis there. The number 9 Avanti, which is in the Studebaker National Museum, was the car that set the record in '62, in August of '62, or no, April '62, and they had another one there, which was number 7 car, which was a backup car. It ran at Bonneville, but it was a backup to the number 9. Then they also ran Larks and Hawks there, both 6-cylinder, 289 V8s, and supercharged V8s, both in Larks and Hawks. And the production car record that the Avanti set at Bonneville held until the late 80s, and it was finally broken by a ZR1 Corvette. And that was a pretty long run for a speed record to run. Suspension-wise, I didn't mention anything about suspension. Suspension-wise, the cars have front disc brakes, first production car, American production car with disc brakes, front and rear sway bars, had factory traction bars in back, they're kingpin front suspension, and so they handle very good too. They handle pretty flat. They're fun car to drive. They had several women that drove these cars at Bonneville. Paula Murphy had driven an Avanti with Sears All-State tires cross country in record time, and when they got to Bonneville, she ran and set several records at Bonneville with an Avanti.
Thank you, Lou. Yes, it was Paula Murphy and Barbara Nealon that set multiple records at Bonneville Salt Flats, along with Andy Granatelli, his brother Joe, and Vince. They ran a 10-mile oval, a 1-mile oval, and set many, many records with the Studebaker Avantis, Larks, and Hawk GTs. Special thanks to Randy Rapp and his magnificent 1964 R3 Avanti. For more information, Avanti Magazine for Avanti Owners Association International is aoai.org, theavanti.com. To contact me, it's teamdan45@gmail.com, and you can always search for more clips on YouTube with Dan Schmitt Motorcycle Racing.